All right, so we're back on Breaking Dawn, people. This is hour number 2, and we are now 14 minutes past the hour of 7 o'clock. For the next 30 minutes, we will be here with Mr. Ramkumar Narinesingh, dealing with specific issues as it relates to salary increases and the perspectives, negotiation strategies, and the facts and myths surrounding requests for higher compensation. All right? Well, this is going to be very interesting because for me, if you're going to ask for more money, then there should be more production or performance. If the performance does not improve, then, you know what I mean, how do you justify an increase? However, where the public servants are concerned and other, well, not just public servants, but any place of employment, sometimes it's tied to cost of living as well. Is it not?
Well, yeah, you can say that.
But that union strike, everything got up, right?
So that takes place.
So morning. Welcome
morning,
back.
of course, Stefan.
Nice, man. So here we go.
So, Stefan, there's this perspective that a person is actually entitled to a salary increase. And it comes from, if you look at how negotiations happen, it's structured in a way where if the unions don't get what they want, of course, they will escalate the matter into protest action. We've not had strikes in a long time in this country.
Right.
But it could escalate and go all the way to the court. But the very structure of how negotiations are set up tells you immediately that a salary increase is not a guarantee. There's no entitlement to a salary increase.
Okay.
There's an entitlement to a negotiation.
Right.
It's written in the law that the companies or businesses who are unionized, they have a responsibility, they have a legal requirement to meet and treat with unions in good faith.
Right.
In the private sector or non-unionized environment, shouldn't say private sector because there are government sectors that are non-unionized as well. So non-unionized environment, you have workers who have an expectation that their salaries would be increased over time. The standard practice that has enveloped our nation is that, people who work for a certain period of time in an organization, they develop that expectation based on their years of service that they should be given some type of salary increase over time or be given promotions.
Right.
If people attribute salary increases as well to opportunities.
This is not to be mistaken for some level of compensation for performance or incentive, not compensation, but incentive.
Remuneration, incentives. What we have, that culture has actually negatively seeped into society, and it has significantly affected.
I'm glad he says our culture.
Yeah, it is our culture.
Well, I'm glad you say that culture. I'm glad you say that culture because I am often confused, And I'll tell you what all right, let me tell you one of the things I'm confused about. I see the unions out there marching on the pavement with measuring tapes.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to have these protest zones removed, right?
Based on the sanctions set by the SOE.
And I'm seeing, all right, let's take the Nurses Association, the Registered Nurses Association, right? Or the RH, I guess any nurse under the RHA, who are currently working on 2013 salaries. And in 2026, we keep hearing this road march. We're on 2013 salaries, we're on 2013 salaries.
Yeah.
All right. So what's stopping you from getting to the negotiating table?
Well, as I understand, they only have recognition status for one RHA. That is the understanding that I have. That is the information that was presented in the public. They are currently trying to get recognition for the other RHAs. What they have done is created a perception that they are representing all the nurses in Trinidad and Tobago, and that is actually not true.
That is not true.
No, but
but even if they're on, all right, but even if that is the case,
regardless,
if you are on 2013 salaries in 2026, you just mentioned it's not an entitlement for an increase, but for negotiation.
That's right.
Get into the right. What does it take to get to the negotiation table?
Engagement. Engagement with the relevant authorities.
Right.
Now, Stefan, here's the thing though. The engagement has to be rational.
Right.
I think Trinidad and Tobago, what we have seen is we've seen irrationality seep into this discussion and dialogue about salary increases and the use of bullying tactics and the leverage on the population of Trinidad and Tobago for the services that they critically need as a means of forcing the powers that be into giving salary increases or making adjustments.
Right.
Now, you have to ask yourself, if you're on 2013 salary and that is the chant, what have you been doing for 13 years that has taken this to where it's at? Now, you saw the Maxi Taxi Association recently took a position. And in their minds, they consider themselves to be right. Because they are also leveraging their services to the population of Trinidad and Tobago. To the people who travel in Maxis, by the way, Stefan, you feel as the people who drive in, who could afford to pay a loan to buy a nice car, you know, buy a luxury vehicle. No, these are the people in Trinidad and Tobago who are struggling to manage costs, right? Because most people in Trinidad and Tobago, if they could afford to jump in their car and drive down the road, whether they have a car or not is irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, there are people who have cars who will take the Maxi.
Yeah.
But what the Maxi Taxi Association successfully did was remind the public that they need to consider alternative forms of transportation. You know, much people took a position, you know what, I need to buy a car. That is what has happened. And so all of these activities, you know what's happened when they tell people don't go Mount Hope because it have no nurses?
Yeah.
The private sector now has had a boost in its demand for private care.
Private care, right.
So, and I don't think that these leaders are really rationalizing their action and all this emotion, the frustration that they claim they have against the eventual outcome. And that seeps into salary negotiations both in non-unionized and unionized environments.
Okay.
Now, the employers have a measure of blame to take for this because I'll tell you what's happened. Everybody complains who is on the employer side. They complain about the demand that is leveraged on them for salary increases. And make no mistake, this type of activity and behavior, it also happens in non-unionized private sector. You have somebody who makes a demand for salary increase and suddenly start to work slow or start to get sick or starts to take longer to do a task.
Right.
Right? People do these things. And what they seem to not understand is that the money doesn't come from a tree in the backyard. It doesn't come from, you know, you don't put your hand up and say manna fall from, you know, I think that fell a long time ago.
Yeah.
What happens is it comes from the very business that you are interrupting. It comes from the very process.
Right.
So I think I said it a couple of weeks ago. There's a very simple process in my mind. As a professional, whatever you may be, make no mistake, all people who make the decision to take a job, to do a job, they are professionals in their own right with the minimum standard of dignity of being a human being.
Right.
Right? It's enshrined and embedded in our Constitution, Section 1, that a person has a right to work. And a person has a right to work in a manner, and I'm paraphrasing here, that would allow for their own personal development and personal gain. They have that right. It's enshrined in our Constitution, right? Now, it stands to rational and reason, Stefan, that if you are working as part of an institution with that right to personal development and personal gain, that it would stand to rational and reason that you would want to become a better version of yourself as you progress.
Yes.
And what you see quite often is, as I said a couple of episodes ago, people are selling time as opposed to selling a standard of dignified work and service.
Yeah, because, all right, I'll put it in context to my job here, right? When we started the show, we started in 2014, right? So we're 12 years into the show. I came in here working on one salary, right?
Right.
Good. But this business survives on advertising, right?
Right.
So as your advertising dollars go up, not necessarily your ratings, Not necessarily. Because I have been number one since 2018,
Right.
right? If I go back and I check all of oh gosh, what is it called again? All of the surveys that they did,
Right.
right? We would have hit number one around 2018. So 4 years in, we surpassed every other morning show, right? And that didn't mean that we were making money. It just means we had viewers,
Right.
right? We had the fan base of the program was growing, but the dollars and cents bottom line of the show had not significantly increased, right? In order for me to go and say to management, well, listen, I think I need a raise because I had the number one show in the country. But having number one show in the country didn't generate no money.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So then you can't justify because where management going to find the money from? So, and this is now I'm putting in the context of how this works, right? And the viewers can get an idea what we're talking about. So, if I was to say, I'm not coming out and force the company's hand to pay me money that they cannot afford, then it puts a strain on every other employee in the company, not so?
It does.
Right, because it takes away from their efforts because we're supposed to be building an empire, so to speak.
Right.
Right? So in my mind, in that context, right, your increase or your request for increase or demand for increase has to be based on the company's growth from a financial standpoint.
So it begs the question immediately.
Right.
Who ultimately is responsible for that?
The employee.
The?
The employee.
Well, actually...
I would say the employees.
So here's what, and this is where I'm
And
saying...
management. It's a combination.
Well, actually, it's not.
No?
It's not. So check this out.
Okay.
So here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, the employee's responsibility is to come to work, and then the employee's responsibility is to execute the duties and functions that they are assigned, right?
Right. Pay attention in the back, fellas.
Employer's responsibility
Right.
to now first establish direction for that institution, for
Right.
that business. Establish direction, right? Because the employer controls 90% of the resources in our organization.
The employer.
10%, yes,
Right.
the 10% the employee have is whatever they're given to do their job.
Okay.
The employer determines the direction of the organization. And then the second thing, most critical Trinidad and Tobago, the employer is responsible for establishing standards of compliance and then for the delivery of consequences.
Okay.
Based on that compliance. Now, there are positive consequences and negative consequences.
Right.
There are positive sense of direction and negative sense of direction. So you're running the business and you do not establish business plans 6 months, 2 years, 5 years. But that's my philosophy, by the way. You're going to find that in a business book. But with a 6-month plan, a 2-year plan, and a 5-year plan, you have a structure
Short,
now.
medium, long term.
It's not the employee's job to do that. And then when you establish a plan, you must establish the standards or the measurables that you want to have for defining success outcomes. So in 6 months, I want to get to here. Right. In 2 years, I want to get to here. And in 5 years, I want to get to here. And then the third, one of the most critical things, Trinidad and Tobago, that business development plan, that success outcome goal cannot be a secret. Do you know how much employees work in companies and they don't have a clue where this business going, what's the outcome, what's the eventuality, what is the plan?
Well, I'll tell you something. We have a manager here. Ever since I work in here, right? I remember when you have meetings, right? When we had meetings,
right.
You say, fellas, here we're going on. A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? This is the plan that I've charted out. This is where we want to be as it relates to this project. And I'm telling you all this because I need all of you to understand that we need to execute this in a particular way because based on how we execute this particular project, it will lead to another project and another project, which leads, of course, to increase in income, so on and so forth, a little more money in everybody's pocket. So
Right.
it goes through the pains,
Right.
I would say, because sometimes you're explaining this to people and they still don't understand. But he explains it to everybody involved, the whole plan,
Right.
so that you know, as the employee, he has painted the picture for you,
Correct.
right?
He's giving you a sense of
He's
direction.
giving you a sense of direction, and he's also giving you an understanding of the shortcomings and the consequences to the shortcomings and the benefits to the success of the execution.
Right.
So you have a proper understanding. So now you know your
You know
role
where to go.
and exactly what you have to do.
Right.
Now this applies, and I'm going to raise a little answerness here. Private sector seems to outperform public sector,
Of course.
right? Despite the fact that the public sector, I would say, is probably funded to perform either on par or outperform the private sector. This is what I would say, right? It's properly funded. I mean, they have the resources, or they ought to have the resources.
Right.
Okay. But what we're just talking about here in a private sector format somehow does not seem to apply in the public sector, because the public sector is more of a employment model than a profit model.
I always
So how do you balance the increases and negotiation and justify and
The unfortunate reality, Stefan, is that governments after governments have run the public sector like a social service.
right,
Biggest
exactly.
problem, right? That's one aspect of it. So you have people hired to fulfill the shortcomings of other people. One of the first
Right.
things we do when we analyze business, so we do business analysis as part of our portfolio. There's a 7-step or 7-stage delivery of service in our company. And we, in analyzing businesses, what we always look to see is where you have people, managers, supervisors, et cetera, who are segueing from addressing the core issues of an employee's performance or their shortcomings, et cetera, and instead trying to just hire somebody to pick up the slack for that person.
Right.
That's actually one of the most detrimental things that affect, or one of the detrimental practices that affect productivity in Trinidad and Tobago is not so much whether you're private or public sector, because this happens in the private sector as well, but more so where you have created systems inadvertently over time that has led to people being the buffer for other people's shortcomings.
Okay.
And quite often that is based on an inherent desire or intention to run your business not based on a success outcome. Profit is attributed to money. Success outcomes, an example in the private sector would be an effective medical or healthcare service delivery. Would you agree?
Yes.
So the efficacy of the service delivery would be your success outcomes in most of the public sectors. In private sectors, of course, it is profitability. Now, an interesting thing, before we run out of time with this, there's something I want to connect the population
About
with.
13 minutes, sorry.
Good.
We're already halfway through.
Right? So I'm happy to hear that. So check this out. And this will apply to the
Yeah.
public sector as well. Remember a couple of episodes ago, or 2 episodes ago, we talked about the exponential potential of an employee?
Yes.
Right. The interesting thing about it is an employee's potential is unmeasurable if they're given the right resources, the right leadership, the right guidance, and then the right system that allow them to understand the consequences of their actions. And remember, you could have positive consequences, increases in salaries, benefits improvement, right? And then you could have negative consequences, which is disciplinary in nature or stagnation. That is a consequence of poor performance as well, meaning there is no money to put in, there is nothing more that you can get. That is what we have a lot of in this
Right.
country, right? Now, the employee's demands for higher wages should not just be cast aside by simply saying, well, the business is not performing well, so we have no money to get. The question has to come, why is the business not performing well? The employee actually have a right to make a demand or make a request or put forward the desire for more. They are acting on that human desire, it's innate. We want more in life, right?
Right.
Or rather, we're supposed to. People who
Well, we're
settle,
supposed to
right?
want more. We're supposed to want to.
Supposed to want more.
You're supposed to want to. Okay. When every day is supposed to be, you're supposed to strive to be better than the day before.
The aspiration to become a better version of yourself.
Yeah. So,
every
so
day.
performance in the workplace, you go to work today, you achieve this, tomorrow you should try to expand that and you know, go 2-3 steps further. Every day, you know what I mean? Because otherwise, that's just the point of living life. If it was just to live life in stagnation, then you wouldn't go anywhere. You live life in order, you have to live your life in a way that you're looking to progress in a progressive manner.
So,
You know what I mean?
so with that exponential capability
Yeah.
and the desire for more, what happens with the employer now is the employer's job. The employee can't get any more. There's a limit. So the employee is facing a situation that is limited. However, the employer's exponential is aspiring for taking the business further, taking the functionality further. Now, check what's happened. Quite often, employers themselves create the problem by being very pessimistic. Their job, their role is to aspire for that which is more, to put goals or establish goals out there that could expand the perspective of the organization. Do you know many organizations? Imagine if you all were to say, you used the example earlier, if you all were to say, well, you know, things bad, and yes, we have the viewership, but people don't have no money, so we will just settle. Then innovation dies, Trinidad and Tobago. Innovation dies when employers and the leadership of whatever institution become pessimists. And then they use that argument now to say, well, they do have more, or there's nothing else to pay from. So a lot of times, workplaces and businesses and institutions destroy people's desire to want more for themselves.
I will agree with that, yes.
So how do you solve the problem? How do you close it? Quite often you need professional help. You do. When you get sick, Stefan, you don't go by the mechanic.
Of course not.
You don't, right? Hopefully you don't.
When your car gets sick, you go by the mechanic.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. You go to the right professionals. So if you know that if the structure and the standard is if you have finance structure to establish, you go to an accountant, and you have medical needs to fulfill, you go to a doctor.
A doctor.
It stands to reason that when you have challenges as it relates to your business development and your people management, you go to HR professionals, industrial relations professionals, and you go to business development professionals, right? And what I'm talking about, what I talk about on national television, these are things that we have tested, we have practiced, and we have succeeded in. We've succeeded in a number of businesses, small, medium, large, in getting them to establish their status, identify direction, and transform their culture, engineer their culture in the organization. And it goes top to bottom. There is no system, Stefan, where it's the employees that are the problem and not the leadership. And there is no system where the leadership is good and the employees are bad.
Yeah.
It's a commingle of issues.
It's a combination of things.
But because the employer has the 90% authority in the work environment, it is the employer's responsibility, business owner's responsibility, the leadership's responsibility to make the decision to want to fix the problem.
Yeah, well, it's also the responsibility to inspire.
Well, that
Well,
is
yeah,
innate. It's ingrained in that.
It's supposed to be ingrained in that. It's supposed to inspire. It's supposed to lead from the front. Otherwise, you will have low morale amongst your workforce, and low morale leads to less productivity, and less productivity leads to a failed business.
Now, I'll tell you, there
Right.
are 4 other steps there that are associated, a 7-stage system. But I'm not going to say the other 4 on national television, because that's our trade secret.
Oh, okay.
So you identify your status, you identify your direction, and then you engineer culture. And then there are 4 other things that you do, right? And that's where our professional services come in, right? So at the end of the day, I can't just give it away all for free, Stefan.
Pressure, you know, fellas. We are no, Sibel boy, we will get the secret to life, you know.
But I had to pay
You
my
understand?
staff.
We will get
I had to pay my
and
staff.
don't say we will get the secret to life, boy. We're gonna find out this thing now. Oh
But-
gosh,
Well,
boy.
let me tell you a little bit. Let me tell you a
Yeah.
little, just a little. Let me tell you a little. So, when you establish culture, right, coming out of that, of course you have resources that must be optimized.
Right.
Right? Then you have innovation that has to be provoked.
Provoked, okay.
You see, you can't just sit and tell somebody sitting by just become innovative. By the way, do you know people do that to people? They say you don't come and make any suggestions. The poor human being, that person has a plethora of issues in their personal lives, and you just drop it on them that they should come and give you ideas, right? People are not naturally, or I should say, institutionally trained to just be innovators. School doesn't really establish that, unfortunately. They tell you to learn what's in the book and to repeat what's in the book.
And then to repeat what's in the book.
That's not how it works. So,
Yeah.
so part of that system is that we train that process of innovation. We teach it, we train it, we develop it, we nurture it.
Okay.
And then there's something called collaborative communication. Collaborative communication, and that is like what we do here. We collaborate in our communication style for
Right.
the show to be effective. Some people don't do that, right? It's dictatorship communication. You ever see that? It goes both ways. Some employees operate like that too, right? And people have to be trained out of that mindset. And the environment has to be structured to foster that mindset. So we do that, right? And then ultimately, in the end, when all of these things come together, the final stage of that process has to also be guided, because it doesn't just magically come together in
Right.
the end, right? And then once you set that system, it actually repeats itself, because after the end of that is that you reevaluate your status and you continue to develop.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we just have about, I think, 2 minutes. But in the 2 minutes here, we want to remind people that Mr. Ramkumar Narinesingh will be on every Thursday. Next week, of course, we'll see what topic. I don't know what topic he might have in mind.
Precursor to Labor Day, right? Oh, by the way, my birthday is on
yeah.
Labor Day. That's a real interesting thing.
Your birthday is 19th of June?
Yeah.
My birthday is 18th.
Hey!
Yeah, man. All right. Good man. Well, I mean. No, yeah, well, Thursday actually that's the show before the holiday.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, we're going into Labor Day, which is very interesting because, I mean, I get the feeling that, I mean, a lot of these unions that out there clamoring, they're trying to build up a momentum kind of leading into Labor Day. It's that time of the year for them.
Yeah,
But we'll see where that goes. I also saw that, I mean, the finance bill, I don't know if you were paying attention to that yesterday.
I was.
With the acting, members of the protective services acting for more than a 3-year period or 1 to 3 year period will now receive the proper pension and benefits. That was one of the things that the minister put in there as it relates to that. Because, I mean, that's another thing too, I have a lot of people acting in a position, but they don't get the benefits of the actual position that they're acting in.
There's an abuse of that facility and that system in the public sector. Wanton abuse of it.
Really?
Yeah. You have, when you consider this concept of acting, they're doing the job.
I could never understand. Yeah.
Correct. And it tells me that the problem with the public sector is that they don't have an effective system of successorship. Yeah, and what they have is they don't have the relevant contingencies for dealing with people who leave a role for different reasons, whether it's medical, whether it's an institutional process on the way.
Right.
They don't have that relevant system, and the efficacy of it is absolutely not there. And they use this concept of acting as just it's just a pair of crutches that they walk around with and it actually significantly demotivates the public sector.
That demotivates. This is what I was coming to. When you have people in those, situations like that, it would demotivate,
Yeah.
lower morale. It's like you're stuck in neutral now.
Correct. You're dating. And there's no marriage.
Yes. You understand what I'm saying? So, I mean, all of those things, I mean, that was good to see us in the finance bill. I think that
They're
will
moving
bring...
to close that. They're
Yeah,
moving to close it.
to fix that problem. I know a lot of people who are acting in positions right now. It's been a few years, well, the two police that are on this program in, behind the badge, Greenwich has been an acting sergeant for the longest while. Pitt has been an acting ASP for the longest while. And, you know, these are some of the measures.
But Stefan,
that
this
gotta
is
be
where
fixed.
the politicians need to do better. And I'll
Right.
tell you what, you're making this decision to establish these acting and move it into permanency. But is the legislation being adjusted now to make this process not political? In other words, why do you need an act of parliament to deal with situations like that? Why should you let it continue to be a situation where it's up to a government or a government minister or ministerial process to get these people confirmed?
Yeah.
Where is the legislation for reformation of the Public Sector Civil Service Act, whatever the act that is applicable to that, right? Where is the legislation for that? Because that is what is needed.
Right.
An entire reformation of that process to eliminate these bureaucracies. Because again, it's going to come back to becoming nothing other than a political football.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So,
And of course, you know, you know, from the time it becomes a political football, we go nowhere. But we want to thank Mr. Ramkumar Narinesingh for coming in this morning. And of course, how do people get in contact with you?
our landline or cell phone. The numbers are up on the screen for us. We have 328
I don't have on my glasses now.
2437. And I'm not seeing it.
All right, it's 328
2437.
2437.
WhatsApp and a cell phone number. I don't remember the landline number now.
Right, 328 2437.
Yeah.
All right,
You can WhatsApp
328
or call.
2437. You can WhatsApp him or call him on that number, 328 2437. And, you know, I mean, you have a business, a small business, a medium-sized business, a big business. You may need the business a little structuring and so on and so forth. This is the man to assist you with that. So make sure and contact him today. Get involved, start the conversation. And we will see him again next week, Thursday, on my birthday, the day before his birthday. So, yeah, man, chef will be here. So you'll get breakfast.
All right.
All right, nice, man. All right, people, so we got to take a break. We got Dr. Watson coming up after the break. Don't go anywhere. Breaking On continues after this.